Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Ouellette. Um, Frank and I know each other from his time at NIU. Um, at that time, you were, I believe, doing your performer certificate, and I had just started college that year.
Make it reinforce how elderly I am.
Yeah. I mean, if I wanted to, I guess I could say what year it was.
Well, we'll say it was some time ago now.
Okay, yeah.
Leave it a little ambiguous.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, what do you? We talked a little bit before this. What are you into right now, as far as clarinet and career and life? It's been a little while since we've talked, like really sat down to talk.
Yeah, it's been a quite a wild ride. I graduated from Roosevelt University 3 years now,
All right.
2017. And so that was in Chicago. And right after I graduated, I actually moved to Wausau, Wisconsin,
Hmm.
which was about a 5 hour drive away from Chicago, to be with my girlfriend, now wife. And then after a year, we moved to where we are now, the Sun Prairie area, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, which is just right outside of Madison.
Okay.
And so I had a lot of time to, well, immediately after school, to practice. My whole plan was to go to grad school and continue on with the whole performance.
Hmm.
It was a challenge, I will say. That first year, I had to learn how to really practice without my teacher or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how much that setting helps with your motivation and goal setting and stuff. And you're right, it is kind of a challenge to establish that on your own.
Hmm.
But I mean, everyone's life is a little different, and I think you find your way that fits the life that you're living right now.
Yeah.
I certainly don't practice the same way now that I did like when I was in undergrad or grad school,
Hmm.
just because the time I have available is different, and the bills I have are slightly different now too. So I got to work. But
Yeah. Well, funny thing is, after I moved to Wausau and graduated college and everything, I went into like just straight, um, I don't know how to say, just boot camp of breaking down everything and redoing all of my fundamentals,
mm,
even changing up a little bit of how I play in general, but really absorbing the lessons that I had from college that I don't think I absorbed during that
yeah,
time. So,
yeah, that's a good point too. Like we get it can be such a rich environment. You get kind of inundated with so much good information, and then
and
it doesn't sink in till later often.
yeah, yeah, for me, for my years at Roosevelt, I certainly felt like I was constantly just catching up
Hmm.
because so when I was at NIU, I came in pretty strong as a stronger freshman, I guess, compared to how the whole studio was at the time.
Right.
And I made it, and while I did make it to some of the top bands and orchestra my second year, I knew that where I was at was way below where some of the best was. And so that's why I transferred to Roosevelt to have that challenge.
Mm.
And oh boy, did I get it. I was going in as my third year of college, yet there were some freshmen who just played circles around me. So my 3 years there certainly felt like at times I was just doing catch up to some
Yeah.
of these guys.
I mean, we can't control what the other people's capability, but it's certainly um, it's an important thing to have those humbling moments and really get your perspective on where you are and where you can go.
Yeah, but
So
like I said, when I started practicing, I really took apart everything and I learned how to actually practice. I'm still kind of learning that, and so much
yeah.
of it came down to slow practice.
Can you describe some of the I know everyone's got a little different approach. What are some of the ways that you've adjusted your practice specifically, or like any specific exercises perhaps?
So before, I would often just practice like how a bunch, how I, how a lot of younger players practice. Just keep doing
Yeah.
it over and over until it becomes correct.
Right.
Um,
Spinning the wheels.
yes, wasting a lot of time. I mean, I definitely gained a lot of endurance from all of that constant
Yeah.
playing,
Yeah, that's
but but so for so at my time at Roosevelt, I studied with John Ye for 2 years, and then my last year I studied with Charlene Zimmerman.
okay. Mhm.
And Charlene was very into Behrman.
Mhm.
And so the first couple of weeks, she had me run through Behrman. She didn't really care about speed. In fact, she had the assumption I could play all of these scales at a fast tempo. But what she really wanted was to hear good sound throughout all the registers and good technique.
Mhm.
So after our first semester of doing that, or actually more like the first 3 weeks, we stopped doing those in lessons. And then the second semester, the first thing she did was, let's go over Behrman again. It was all right. I played it. And then she said that wasn't very good. We are going to work on this for the next couple of lessons. And that's when I started to realize the importance of scales,
Yeah.
and really listening to how I play and making sure I have good sound and everything. So that kind of affected where I was at after school. She
Mhm.
also enforced Rose A2 number one out of the 40 book. Yeah, the book
Yeah.
40. Um, so I really had a lot of that I really practiced. And I wrote at the time a journal of what scale I was doing, how many times I practiced it that day, and at what tempo. I started very slow, and I did all of the exercises for B major that day, all at very slow, and making sure I could have everything sound really connected.
Now, when you say slow, do you have a metronome marking for reference for?
I think the slowest I went was 40.
Oh wow.
It like stupid slow.
Yeah. Really
Um, so slow
painstaking.
that I couldn't even make any sort of mistakes,
Hmm.
but that allowed me to really focus on air control and, as I said, good sound.
Nice. Yeah, that's been a recurring theme with a lot of the other guests I've had is
Mhm.
their return to the fundamentals and how deeply they dig into the fundamentals. Um,
Yeah.
it's it's something I'm going to keep pointing out because it's so
Yes.
important. Uh,
Yeah. Um, So when I was in Wausau, I played with a group there, and that and by the time I started playing with them, I had already been in maybe 2 months of all of this slow practice, and I had all the time to do it from 5 until 8 o'clock.
Hmm.
And that was when I really started to truly understand how important this was, because all of the music, it wasn't the most challenging stuff I had done, but because I did all of those patterns and it was already in the fingers, I could already play it.
Yeah, that's important too. Your people call it muscle memory. You know,
Hmm.
putting those synapses together so they can fire off when you need them.
I will say one other thing that really helped me with um, doing everything slow was the fact that just to try it out, I started doing double lip embouchure. And uh, t- first 2 weeks, I could barely play at all.
Did did your any of your other teachers introduce you to that, or did you just kind of
Not
with it?
formally. I know John Ye plays double lip, but we never really went into it. It was
Okay.
a concept I've known about, but when you're in school and you're just trying to survive each week,
Mm,
you really don't get a chance to try things like this.
yeah.
And that's what I did, and I've been stuck doing it ever since.
So you're a full-time double lip now?
Yeah.
Nice.
Last year, I ripped off that mouthpiece patch and said, I'm committing to this.
Nice. And what um can you describe what you feel like you gain from it, having switched?
So, for me, I feel more of the air in my mouth, and I feel that I can have a better feeling for how I focus it.
Okay.
And I also had a huge problem with biting, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was
Well,
something.
I think a lot of people try to make up for their lack of I'm sure strength by just
Mhm.
chomping down.
Yeah, John really got on my case to not bite. And while we did fix it with single lip, I wanted to experiment and found that it works really well for me and keeps me from biting too much. Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about this, but I'm also a double lip player. Um, I don't know if it ever even came up when I was at Northern.
Maybe.
Um,
I
yeah,
think I
I
had my suspicions at one point. But
but I mean, my my path to that was, I started exploring all these great historical players, Harold
mhm,
Wright for one,
yep.
and that was my introduction to the idea that you could even do double lip.
Mhm,
And then by some good fortune, I got connected with Kalman Opperman and
mhm.
his studio, and that's where I really dove into to how, like, the technique
Yeah.
behind it. And this was, for me, this was at the tail end of my undergraduate and maybe a year or so before I started grad school. And this was I did my master's at Western Illinois. I studied with
Mhm,
Eric Ginsberg, who is also one of my previous guests.
yep.
Um, but part of why I chose to study with him is because he was of this lineage of double lip players that studied under Cal.
Mhm,
Um, and I will tell you, similar to what you've described about your return to fundamentals, that's what
mhm.
it was like. It was like starting over all over again when I started working with them, because
Oh
you have,
yeah.
getting this
Mhm,
upper lip set. And I think as clarinetists, we talk a lot about the flat
bottom.
chin and all that stuff. I've found that a lot of that happens automatically and effectively when you're pulling that upper lip down and you're really squeezing around, like all that kind of sets.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Now I get to nerd out with you about our weird embouchures.
Yeah.
But
Are you able to stand and play? I hear that's a difficulty for many.
yeah, I'll say yes, but I don't like it. And I'm more inclined to say that it's because I'm overall lazy instead of just the double lip thing.
Yeah.
I I feel like I just feel more comfortable if I'm sitting, and if I'm doing now if I'm doing like solo performance, I have a stool. It's slightly higher than sitting on a chair, and if it's good enough for other musicians in other genres, it's good enough for me. I don't.
Yeah.
I've had people yell at me about trying to stand when I perform. Like, I understand where they're coming from, but if I'm playing the music of my choice, I'm going to do whatever I want. That's my art. But
yeah, I understand that Harold Wright actually never stood when he played, if I'm not mistaken. I remember hearing that somewhere.
I can't confirm that, but that would make sense. I mean, but here's the thing too. When you think of Harold Wright and his playing, you think of his playing.
Yeah, not so much.
You don't think of how he looked when he was standing or sitting or whatever. Like, we know him for his beautiful sound and beautiful art. That's why I don't always take the standing versus sitting thing too seriously.
Yeah.
It's like, it's music. What are people going to remember the most from your performance? It would, to me, it would be what they hear, and then the rest of the experience can follow.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. I mean, people can choose whatever embouchure works best for them, but it's always neat to hear when people migrate to double lip.
Yeah, I think part of it also was I had one summer I went to the Buffet Summer Academy. Actually, maybe if
was that,
you can kind of see one of the posters there.
Was that international, or was that somewhere in the U.S.?
No, that was specifically in Florida, Jacksonville. And the guests they had were Mark Nuccio, Laurie Bloom, Ixi Chen, Andre Moisan, and Pascual Martinez Forteza.
Okay, yeah.
And with Mark, my lesson with him, he had me change my upper lip because at the time it was very more outward, and had me curl it in.
So like a pouty type, like
type.
Okay.
And he had me bring it in, and so that really made me realize how important engaging the upper lip was, even in single lip playing.
Yeah. I have an anecdote. This is very self-gratifying. It's my show. I can do what I want. So one of Cal's most famous students was Richard Stolzman.
Yep.
He's also a double lip player. I remember the first time I met them, Cal had a, they call it a clarinet summit. It was him, Stolzman, and then several other people from Cal's studio who came in to perform and teach and all that. But I got a good look at Stolzman's upper lip, and there's like extra musculature hanging down. Like, the little, it's going to weird people out, but like when you lift up your top lip and there's that thing kind of connecting. I mean, I don't know if he's, I don't want to, this is not meant to insult the guy, because I respect him incredibly, and he's still one of the most skilled players, but it was like hanging down visibly where you could see, because he had spent so much time with Cal pulling this upper lip down and firming up on that double lip embouchure. It was just like physically imposing.
Well, I mean, also your teeth and all the calluses. That, I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to do some damage, if you will, to your body, if you, so to speak.
Yeah. We have our kind of unique presets. For instance, your right thumb, there's got to be some kind of little thing.
Yep.
Around the thumb rest, right?
Yep, the thumb rest callus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've talked about some of this stuff with my other guests too, like how the instrument, how you and the instrument fit together. I think Harry, the last when I talked to him, we're talking about the instruments he sells and how he adjusts them for people. But how it sits in your hand and like whether you have to really reach or not. I remember seeing Cal pick up a clarinet for the first time, and at the time I didn't even know who he was. It was just some old guy who yelled at us for making mistakes. But when he picked up the clarinet, like everything just it fit like his hands. It looked like his hands were made to be on that clarinet. Like that's the only way I can describe it, because it was just so comfortable and everything was exactly lined up where it needed to be. And it became a permanent frame of reference for me. Like if my technique feels wonky, like how do I need to adjust my hands so it seems as effortless as his hands were, you know? And even I switched embouchures over the year, or not embouchures, ligatures. I switched ligatures over the years. Mostly it's when I started to grow up a little patch down here.
Yeah.
I used to play pretty comfortably on just like a standard bonade.
Yeah.
Until it started yanking out these hairs. Like I would go up to play, and this was in the middle of orchestra. So I'd go to switch clarinets or put it down for a rest, and just 2 or 3 hairs kept popping out after every break.
Not fun.
Then I switched to like screws on the top type for a while. I don't know. For now I like my little Asian goatee, so that may keep influencing my.
I'm not one who grows facial hair much.
Yeah. Oh,
maybe in 5 years I'll have something.
Yeah.
Half as
just
nice
leave
as
it alone.
yours.
Just leave it alone for that long, and you get the wispy ancient Asian ones come in, and people will wonder whether you're 18 or 300.
So I have this joke that I tell people, when I turn 80, it's all gonna come.
Yeah,
the hair's just gonna grow overnight, and I will look like that stereotypical kung fu master.
Oh man, yeah. That's my hope. If I live that long, I want to be one of those scary Asian guys with the long beard. You just don't really know. Like, are they decrepit, or are they gonna break me in half? Oh man, this is so little self-indulgent ethnic fun. So we've covered a little bit about your background and some of the lessons you've learned to this point.
Yeah, I can go further in if you want.
Yeah, well,
the whole story.
Yeah, no, we have plenty of time to explore. What are you? Well, 2020 is weird. Up until all the COVID stuff started happening, what had you? What kind of career stuff had you built? Like you mentioned, you played with an ensemble somewhere up there.
Yeah, so going into a whole new town that I never had been to and know nothing about, I did my research and looked on like Google and typed Wausau music, ensembles, whatever. Excuse me. And Wausau had this conservatory. It was a place to get lessons and like summer camps and whatnot for for kids. So I found where this place was, and when it was open, and I walked in one day, went to the office and just said, "Hi, my name's Michael. I'm a clarinetist, and I'm new here. What can you tell me about Wausau?" And the person that I was talking to, the director at the time, she told me of what the musical community was like.
Mhm.
And funny enough, she she said, "Oh, if you had been an oboe player, I'd have work for you right away."
Of course, the
Yeah.
double reeds.
Yeah. So she introduced me to the Wausau band. I can't remember what its specific term, but the Wausau band, essentially. It was some community, well, some amateur and some professional level,
Right.
and was conducted by I can't. I'm
That's all right.
Patrick Lawrence,
Okay.
who is the trombone professor at UW Stevens Point.
All right.
So
We
she
can-
gave me his email.
We can
And-
link all this stuff in the show notes later if you want.
Yeah, if I
All that
remember.
info, I'll put it.
So I emailed him and asked about the ensemble, and he told me what time it was and everything. So I showed up, and in my email I mentioned I had a background in music, but I'm this new person, young person, so nobody knows who I am. And I mean, I think one of the important things that I had to do was I knew some of these folks would be amateur and hobbyist and not professionally trained. But regardless, I went in with the attitude of just put me where you need me. Put me where you think where is good. And I think they put me on like second clarinet. So, not anything too hard and not the bad third clarinet.
Yeah, all the stereotypes of
Yeah.
the seats.
Yeah. And after that first concert, they put me on first clarinet, and I've finished the rest of the season playing there. But again, it was more important to me to just play whatever part and play it well.
Yeah, that's a good mentality to have. I know I've seen a lot of people who come right out of the gate expecting to be handed the top places in every place they go. That's just not how it is out there. And
No.
But if you're holding your breath for that kind of stuff, you're just never going to play.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, maybe I'm biased because that's a lot like how I started playing around here. Was I came back from school or from undergrad, and like, hey, here I am, just wherever there's openings, wherever you'd like me to play, let me just play and start building a reputation for myself around here.
Yeah.
And now I've made tens of dollars.
So the funny thing is, I was in Wausau for about a year, and then we moved, my girlfriend and I at the time, now wife again, we moved to Sun Prairie, and I basically did the same exact thing. I found this music school a couple towns out and did the same thing. Hi, I'm a clarinetist. Do you need any teachers? Do you know this or that? And now this is really funny. The director there, not only did he hear my spiel to the front desk person and invited me to his office, he actually applied to be the dean at Roosevelt at one point. So that was small world, really.
Yeah.
he gave me a bunch of emails and people to contact. The one that I think got anywhere primarily was with Scott Teeple, the director of bands at UW-Madison.
Mm-hmm.
He also conducts the Madison Madison Community Band at the Madison Technical College.
All right.
So it was similar thing, except there was a informal audition, more so just to kind of gauge where my skill was at, and because they did things differently where we switch off parts.
Okay.
Like everybody gets a chance to play first unless they really don't want to, which in some cases there were.
Yeah.
And so, and I actually really like that approach. It gives everyone a chance to step up and, excuse me, still get a chance to, appreciate all parts, if you will.
Yeah.
And so for the clarinet section in particular, I believe I'm the only one who has any formal degree, but there are some excellent players. And so having a giant ego would not be a good thing.
Yeah. No, that's it certainly doesn't help.
And from there, I also made some contacts with some people in that group, since we're here to stay. At one point, with some of the clarinets there, we had started an impromptu quartet.
Okay.
And we probably would be doing stuff today, but not before COVID. I became a father.
Yeah, I saw. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
It rains and pours, right?
It changed a lot of how I think of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad. I should also point out, for both of those years, up until then, I applied to grad school. The first year while I was in Wausau, I aimed high. I applied to Rice, Eastman, UW-Madison, and probably some fourth school that I don't remember right now. And in all cases, I was rejected. Some I never even got past pre-screening. Doesn't matter though, because I learned so much and really challenged myself that year. The second year, I only applied to Madison and didn't get in. I do not regret it 1 second, because I can't imagine being a new father, and doing grad school.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine myself, but it was grad school as a single random single guy was hard enough. Let alone with an offspring. I can't imagine.
Yeah. But
now let me ask you this: when you were pursuing a graduate degree, or at least auditioning at these places, what did you have a goal in mind as to why you wanted it? Like where you wanted that degree to lead you?
I mean, generally, it's always been a little more vague.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, get more degrees. There was always the possibility that I would consider teaching at the university level. But as time has gone by, the prospect of getting a doctorate is becoming a little less persuasive. But I'm never ruling it out, per se.
Mm-hmm.
And being a father now, and having seen what COVID has done to the performance world, I have totally switched how I think of things. And right now I have applied to UW-Madison to get my teaching certification. I would definitely love to go back and get my master's, but getting that certification is way more important right now.
Yeah. Well, that's an important point. Being able to pivot when it's clearly time to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're let's say hypothetically your previous goal was just like become CSO principal, which I don't think
Mm-hmm.
is open at this point, but
Oh, probably not.
yeah, but you can't just keep like running your head into the wall expecting to move forward when just it's
Mm-hmm.
not the right opportunity or time or whatever. um and yeah, I think a lot of artists get stuck at that point, like things
Mm-hmm.
aren't playing out how they want, and what do you do, you know?
Yeah. And, from this time since school, I went to one of the clarinet cornucopias 2 years ago, I believe. And their artist that year was Stefan Harg
Okay.
from Sweden. And it was really interesting for me because being able to contact Dr. Barrett, and that whole relationship was less student teacher but more of a colleague kind
Yeah.
of relationship. And when having dinner with him and his wife, so they were telling me how when they were younger, I don't remember if at the time, no, I didn't, but they were telling me how their life for a time was just chasing after the next paycheck, performing, and that may have worked back then with a much more stable economy, and,
Mhm.
but not in today's world.
Yeah. I
certainly
think
not with certainly not with the large debt, student loan debt that I have.
yeah. I think too the music scene is different now than it was. Like even if it were operating as normal,
Hmm.
like it's just a different it's a different thing to 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 be a gigging musician nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. And so many students like myself just have large debt, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough that I have a job that lets me pay it, and I'm still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're, yeah, like, I mean, I've heard the debt complaint, and I have my own
Hmm.
debts continuing as well. I was fortunate because I chose state schools a lot, and I tried to keep it minimal, but it's still there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I chose a private school, but I
yeah,
wanted to study with John Ye.
yeah,
So,
you get what you get what you pay for, and you made the
uh-huh.
choice.
Yeah.
But I think I feel like I've seen a lot of people make their debt like a kind of a sticking point. Like
Hmm.
one way or another, it's there, and I think people need to find their way to move forward, regardless of
Hmm.
what happens with it. If somehow it magically goes away or whatever, or if we all become millionaire performers, that's or something like.
I'm not
But
betting on that,
yeah.
but
Well, I mean, keep an open mind. You never know. I mean,
yeah.
look at how the performance world has started to pivot based on the pandemic. Like
Yeah.
you have so many people now putting up some kind of content. I mean,
Hmm.
this show, for instance, I was just like, you know what? I haven't talked to a lot of my clarinet friends in a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm glad you did this. It was a great way to catch up,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah. I mean,
And
if I can manage to spin it into a couple bucks later, fine.
hmm.
But it's just nice to have an excuse to talk to colleagues again.
Yeah,
And
and
certainly
it's
now, however many years removed from Northern we are,
hmm.
you've lived a whole life, and you know had a career in between that we can reconnect at a different level now. And that's
Yeah, I think I watched almost all of your videos thus far, but hearing uh, Dr. Barrett and Harry talk about their experiences and how they got to where they got, it was really nice to hear, both
good.
to in a catch-up sense, but also to hear different perspectives. And actually, I was watching your episode with Harry, and that somewhat influenced me because I believe all your guests before had been established professors or professionals in the
Mm.
business. And Harry's was someone who had their trajectory at least set. So part of reaching out was having a different perspective, someone who's still figuring it out.
Yeah. No, that's important because that's a large segment of the crowd that I would like to
Mhm.
benefit, you know, because I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot of people like you. I still consider myself part of this crowd. Like,
Hmm.
I don't have it all figured out either. I'm just trying to do stuff. But
And I'll
given
say,
giving
go ahead.
people some sorry, giving people something to chew on and maybe start developing a new and different direction for them. But
Yeah, I will say that when I first wanted to be a musician, I all I knew was the professional, the CSO level
right.
gig, and so that for a long time was kind of my goal. Well, as you know, that's not always the case. Not everyone can be John Ye and join the Chicago Symphony at 19 or something. That's a huge rarity.
All right.
Uh, not only for just the skill level, but the opening. I mean, when is the CSO going to have an opening for any
Yeah,
clarinet?
for anything.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, unfortunately, probably when somebody chooses to retire or just dies.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I want that for anyone, but
Oh yeah.
that's what happens.
But for me in particular, you know this, but the audience doesn't. I have a birth defect called microtia, which so my outer ears are not fully formed and developed, which fortunately I have some great hearing aids that let me pursue music and function well. Uh, and but something like this and just the bad eyesight that I have but I have contacts, kind of disqualify me from much of a military career.
Mm,
So that's not even much of an option for me.
yeah, but you're still moving forward despite
Mhm.
some people might consider that a deal breaker and just wouldn't even pursue it. But
Yeah. Um, One of the contacts that I made in the band that I was playing was one of the local teachers in the area. And at one point, there was a potential uh, regular teaching gig with the schools, but uh, someone else got that gig. Someone in one of the local orchestras, fabulous player,
mm,
um, bigger name than me. But I still got some opportunities to listen to like the students' solos and ensembles, give feedback, and meet even more of the teachers in the area. So I have made contacts and I have given business cards.
yeah,
I have a whole giant box.
nice. Yeah, I've played that game myself. You get the what did you get, like a 1,200 pack or 1,000 pack from
Yeah, something like that. But
there we go. I mean,
the
yeah, if that's where you are in your career, that's you got to do that. Like
yeah,
knocking on doors, building even just the awareness that you exist,
Yeah.
like, because you're never gonna, I believe it or not, I've met some people who just assume that people are gonna magically know who they are and like just come to their doorstep without any warning and give them a job. Like,
Yeah.
that's not how it works.
Yeah. I was able to get a student for a time until COVID, but she was in the band that we were playing, someone who hadn't played the clarinet for years, and one of the players that didn't want to do anything but third clarinet. And I ultimately offered to teach her after a couple of weeks of just she would say, I'm having trouble with this or that, and I would give her general advice. And then the end of the semester, that's when I gave my pitch, and I said, hey, I could give you lessons during all this break and everything if you would like. And for a while, she was my only student. And right now, it's unfortunately that's not much of a thing. But I just got this webcam actually, so maybe doing online would be great.
That's what a lot of people are. Well, certainly here in Illinois, a lot of people are being forced to do that for school, anyways.
Yep.
And I just talked to Lacey, another previous guest. She was teaching at like 4 different local high schools or local schools, and just had to pivot and do almost all of it online like this.
Yeah.
So this, I mean, it's so important to look at these things as opportunity as opposed to a setback, because otherwise you're just not going to go anywhere. But that's, I'm glad I'm glad to see you making making some headway and getting your name.
I certainly had a time of where I basically just couldn't do anything. I mean, and that, surprise, taking care of my daughter. I spent probably the first 6 or 7 months not actually sleeping.
Yeah.
And it even culminated with me at work one day. I work at Target right now, and it culminated with me like butting heads with my boss over something very stupid. And because I was so sleep deprived, I just broke down right in front of him. and oh, that was a fun time.
Hey, we're all only human, right?
Yeah.
But
it also at the time, my wife and I, we got our house recently. We're right now in my basement, but at the time we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment. So practicing was almost non-existent.
I imagine.
But fortunately, I have this nice basement.
Yeah,
my daughter
nice.
now sleeps. And I can practice when I want. But having that time away certainly had me reevaluate how I practice even again. Instead of having those large chunks, it's more of like an hour or so, but very focused and goal oriented into what I'm doing.
That's very much how my own practice has evolved now over the years. You just don't have the same time as when you're in school. But and what I teach a lot of my students, whether they get it yet or not, is like if you're really engaged, even a few minutes at a time is going to help you move the needle.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, but there has to be zero wasted time. No, just running up and down fast noodly stuff for no reason, screaming out altissimo, unless that's what you're practicing, and then then you have to focus. It's like, what are you actually trying to accomplish? But that's important. I mean, you're a working family man.
Yep.
So you have your time is at a premium. So when you practice, you have to get the most out of it because there may not be a lot of time in between to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But like I said, fortunately now the little one sleeps. She sleeps 12 hours, way more than I do, and she'll sleep through all of the screeching. One thing I can't believe was probably when she was 4 months. She was taking a nap, and I don't know why. No, it was because my wife, she works overnights, and she was sleeping 2 rooms away. So the only place I could practice was in the child's room. And I don't know what possessed me, but I was practicing the Firebird of all things with my kid right here. And she was sleeping through it all.
Wow.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. I'll make a note that that's where I'm going to put some creative editing right there. Well, cool. Uh, it's been great to see how you've been shaping your career out of school and now into family life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I think a lot of people need to think about because you're not going to be like some 21-year-old fresh out of college kid forever. You
Yeah.
know, life happens, and if you want to keep doing this, you got to adjust. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff to think about.
Yeah, and there are still some like ensembles in the area that I need to contact. But with again having the kid, it really changed just the timing of when I'm doing some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But as things are starting to progress, some things are easier, and even doing this, I couldn't really even do that 3-4 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So let me bring it back a little bit to some other clarinet topics.
Yeah.
What's what's some clarinet rep that you enjoy? Like what's stuff that really keeps you coming back?
Um, well, I do like a lot of Weber stuff. I think some of that is just the operatic influences.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, Charlene, the principal of the Lyric, or not, yeah, Lyric, Chicago Lyric, yeah. For some
Uh,
reason,
oh yeah.
yeah, Chicago Lyric. And John is always a big proponent of singing.
Mm.
So there's that operatic style that I really appreciate.
Do
A
you
lot of stuff.
sorry, do you having said that, do you prefer like more solo rep, showpiece type stuff, or does it kind of vary?
I I kind of just find a little bit of whatever. Actually also tend to find solo unaccompanied pieces from all over.
Mm.
Um, for like my junior recital, I played the third movement of the Cape Cod Files by Paquito de Rivera.
Okay.
Uh, that was much more free, I guess, and jazzier ish.
Yeah. Yeah, if Paquito de Rivera is behind it, I'm sure it was, you know,
Yeah,
fun.
they were that that movement particularly. I think was influenced by a Cuban pianist and just some tunes that he had played. And during my senior recital, I played the clarinet sonata, not the sonatina, by Miklos Rosa.
Okay.
3-movement sonata. And at the time, I actually played it because I had a CD by Larry Combs.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first thing I heard ever by Larry Combs. And so I had this desire to play it.
Yeah.
And to my surprise, at the time, at least online, nobody had a single recording of it that was easily available. So when I actually put it up on YouTube from my senior recital, and I think I was one of the only other recordings there at the time.
Well, if you want to send that link to me, I can post it. Unless,
Sure. My YouTube channel isn't really much of anything. It's just pretty much my recitals at the time. But I've been
if you
looking
want to share it, I'll put it up.
Okay, I'll think about that one.
Yeah.
But a lot of music that has been really interesting to me, especially since college, is actually minimalist music. Have you ever heard of In C by Terry Riley?
No, I don't think I have.
It's one of those interesting pieces where I might have a copy of how the music looks somewhere. Well, it's not in immediately, but it's a piece of music that's all in the key of C, and it's often cited as the first minimalist piece of music, and each measure works as a cell.
Huh.
And
you mean the first?
Yeah,
like the very first.
Yeah, it's often considered. Whether it really is, that I guess could be disputed, but it's one of the first major ones. And so it's a piece of music where each measure is considered a cell, and it's not really measured in time per se. And what you do is you play the measures, and then you repeat it indefinitely. And it's a piece for an ensemble as large or as small as you'd like, with whatever instruments. And so you have all of these melodic ideas in this one key signature, and then someone moves on to the next cell, and you have all these overlapping sounds. And it's a really interesting, it can be as long as you want or as short as you want. I've heard recordings of it that are an hour plus long. I've heard ones that are like 15 minutes, some even longer, with various different instruments. And I really like that kind of music. I've been really interested in exploring some of that more.
Yeah. No, that's a fun direction to go. The kind of bleeding edge of music.
Yeah, and I will say that I know some of the new music can get a bad rap of just being noise.
Right.
This one is certainly not just noise. There is at least some traditional, like, harmonic structure to it. But what I like is just how one performance or recording can be so different from another, and how it just adding one different instrument. I've heard one with voice that added to it that completely changes it. One that is very slow, one that's much faster, and they're all very different recordings and feel.
Yeah, that would be. That seems interesting. The experiential part of that, like, because I think in the classical world we get used to slight variations on basically the same thing all the time. but then to have a way to approach music that's just a completely different experience each time.
Hmm.
That sounds pretty fascinating.
Yeah, there's a lot of recordings on YouTube that I really like. Uh, so I'll have to send you a couple of
Yeah.
links.
Or like throw together a playlist, and I think I can link the playlist of that stuff for people who want
Hmm.
to check it out.
Yeah.
I certainly will, because that's I need something else to think about other than people yelling at me to wash my hands or cover my face.
If nothing else, it can make good background music
There we
to really
go.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, no, that'll be fun for people to explore. So yeah, I'll put if you put that together, I'll put it up for
Hmm.
people to check out.
Yeah.
Um, do you now when you went to school it was performance?
Yes.
Did you play around with composing or arranging at all?
Um, well, I mean, yeah. Um, there were part of our theory courses was to do some composition, but I never really got around to much arranging
Yeah,
of stuff. But I did do some arranging at one point. I haven't had much time for it, but I do recall um, taking a tune from The Legend of Zelda,
yeah,
something, and just dictating it and writing something for guitar, flute, and percussion.
nice. I mean,
So,
I'm not making you choose careers here, but that's I've seen a lot of people exploring that kind of stuff too. Old school nostalgic tunes,
mhm.
all like there's a lot of creative stuff out there. I think if you
Yeah,
I don't have the skill or appetite to do any kind of writing myself.
it's hard. I particularly struggled with dictation, and it really took a long time for me to really train my ears. I wonder how much of it was just uh, having these devices and trying to work with that, or how much of it really was just I just hadn't opened my ears to hearing certain things,
Mm,
or just had trouble focusing.
yeah,
I'm willing to think it was just I was just listening to the wrong stuff, because I remember one of my exams we had to dictate the chord progression of a pop song, and for the life of me at the time I couldn't hear it. But then one day at work I'm listening to this very same song and I hear the piano just hitting those bass notes, and it's like, I'm an idiot. It was so obvious, it was right there.
I was gonna say pop music. What was that, like three or four chords?
Yeah, it was an earlier theory course, but still it was right there.
Yeah, yeah. I've had one too many of those moments. I just don't. I tend not to be in the writing and arranging world myself. But hey, if you want to explore some of that, you probably talk to Patrick. Um,
Yep.
I've also he's one of my previous guests as well,
Uh-huh.
and has built quite a successful career so far off of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember seeing him at Cornucopia a couple of times.
Yeah, but you know, also shameless plug for previous episodes. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think we've done a couple of those. We've already
yeah,
mentioned Dr. Barrett, Harry, now
well,
Patrick.
yeah. Some of it's inevitable because that's just that's who we know and who we
Hmm.
spend time with. And
Yeah.
and that's naturally when I started this, that's who I wanted to talk to because I hadn't
Hmm.
talked to a lot of these people, including yourself, for quite some time.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Do you? I know. You know, work and family life is still kind of fresh in hand right now. Do you? Do you have any artistic or professional goals in mind that are really set for you yet, or Is it all still kind of in flux?
Everything really is kind of in flux. I've always wanted to teach privately, and that's something I'm going to start getting up again and really trying to outreach again to people.
Are you planning to be are you planning to live where you're living for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, we just got this house.
Okay.
I don't want to move. I can't. I've moved like 5 times in the past 5 years.
Oh man.
Apartments in Chicago, across cities,
Yeah.
states. I'm done. I'm, I'm gonna stay here for a while.
There you go. But I
So,
mean, that said, if you know you're going to be there for a while, I think yeah, you're doing all the right stuff. You got the cards ready. Just
mhm.
start talking to the schools and seeing who responds over time. I think when I first I think it took me getting home from grad school after having passed out my first set of cards. Like it took 2 years to come back before people were like, "Oh, hey, and now I need lessons." You
Mhm.
know, I mean, you don't. I mean, I can't speak for your market, but I know around here in the Chicago area, it's a little saturated with talent.
Yep.
Um, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of good people doing it too. So it takes a little while to establish a reputation and draw an audience. But
I will say one thing that I guess I somewhat took it for granted when I was younger was having NIU there and so many people and different programs. I got to meet a lot of people within the DeKalb music scene,
mhm,
from just people subbing into the youth orchestra, meeting people,
yeah,
and that's how I got into the DeKalb Municipal Band for several years. And I think also Jimmy, Jimmy certainly didn't hurt knowing that guy.
you kept track of him. I
Mhm.
went off. He went off.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I keep track of that guy. It's I it's I I sort of refuse to lose contact with him or Harry to some extent.
well, that's good. I think. I mean, it sounds a little dark to say, but you know, time starts to weed out your friends. You know, over
Hmm.
so
Yeah,
yeah. If you're close with people, it's great to hang on for dear life.
we
I
were.
mean, life is hard enough, and it may it's taken people uh, like distance wise very far away.
Yeah,
So yeah,
you
I don't
know,
know. Uh, whatever he's doing, I hope you tell him hi for me and maybe down a little bit. Make sure.
I told him about this, so he'll probably watch this whenever it goes on.
Yeah.
So shout outs to you, Mr. Zucker.
Yes.
We were actually going to play a trio for Cornucopia. Jimmy unfortunately had to drop out and enlisted Will Kirby to sub for his part. But the three of us were going to play a cornucopia and, well, COVID.
Yeah.
So, but we did somewhere in Harry's Facebook. He did a live stream of us performing it after one or two. Well, no, actually, it's like run throughs. So you could probably find it somewhere there.
Yeah. Well, if it happens to find its way to me, I will happen to put it in the show notes.
Oh, jeez.
Uh,
Yeah,
that's up to you guys. If
yeah, yeah.
but that's good. No, yeah, no. Hang on to your friends. Keep that network close.
Hmm.
And then yeah, I mean that could be another avenue to create. I like I've I mean case in point. This is what I'm trying to do with my a lot of my music friends is
Yeah.
share each other's value and use our kind of online catch up time to help other people. Um, but yeah, Uh,
I mean,
that's
that
good.
whole saying about it's all about who you know, that so much is true there.
Yeah, it is important. I mean, in the business world, you call it networking. You know,
Yeah,
it's the relationships you build with people. You know, it
absolutely.
I don't think anyone loses out by being good people to each other and kind to each other. You know,
Hmm.
um, oh man. So let's take another detour here.
Sure.
What's are you still playing on the same equipment or have you changed
Yeah,
equipment?
actually, I have it right here.
Oh, hooray.
Um, yeah. Um, I'm not a wealthy person, if you will,
Yeah.
so I've been playing this buffet festival since we met. Actually, I do still have that barrel, that Hadash barrel that you helped me pick out at Northeastern.
Oh, that's right. Well, there was they had that
Yeah,
event there. I remember.
yeah, right here.
Nice.
I actually had to stop using that recently because I don't know if it's whether my instrument needs some repairs. Probably. I lost the pad and had to jerry rig it myself.
Some chewing
I
gum and
do
some
no, I actually did my some research on how to do it. I'm not sure if it's a very good, but it for the time being it works. I was able to replace the pad for my C sharp key.
wh- um sorry, I'm less familiar with your geography over there. Where are you in relation to Chicago area now?
Um,
If you can
about
describe it in those
about
terms.
2.5 hours away, so not very far.
Like north
Oh,
northwest.
north. Yeah, north.
Okay.
Probably
Uh
right by pretty much at Madison, Wisconsin.
okay. All right. I was gonna say if it's by a major state university, there must be a tech somewhere,
Oh
right?
yeah, there are some stores. I just haven't had time to go to visit or make appointments. And I've always personally been interested in the technical side of how all of this works. And I have a bunch of old clarinets that I just every now and then take apart just so I know how to put my instrument back together
Yeah.
if need be. I even replaced the tenon cork here at one point
Oh wow.
recently. Um, Obviously, I would take it to a technician for overhauls, but for when you're in a pinch, like 10 minutes before a gig, and you have some minor repair that you have to do, it's good
Yeah.
to learn this stuff.
Yeah. The instrument first aid just in
Yeah,
case.
but
Uh,
yeah, I'm playing on this buffet festival on my 65 millimeter barrel. Yeah, 650. And for my A, it's an R13.
okay.
And I'm so sad about COVID because I just bought this E flat. I
Oh,
just bought this E flat, and I was gonna play a couple of great pieces on it, but I got this Yamaha E flat
yeah.
from one of my friends in the Chicago area. Although he moved recently, but he bought it, or he was selling it for a really good price that I just couldn't say no to, even though it cost me just just my hand.
I've been there. If you were any closer, I would say go harass Harry at his shop because it sounds like he's gotten way into the repair
Yeah,
and tech side of things.
after I saw him the last time, um, I basically kind of in my head, maybe not to him directly, said, "Yeah, I'll take my instrument to him next time I really need it." So if I didn't say that, Harry, and you were watching, I will call you eventually.
I'm planning to go down or Where am I? Over, up and over. Yeah, I'm planning to go over there in the next week or so and harass him myself. Because they're talking about some of the other instruments they carry there.
Yeah.
I need to check out some of the newer instruments because I've been behind on keeping up with the industry. Plus, it's fun to bother people. So yeah, I mean, well, if time and disease and family life give you enough openings, we'll have to have like a mini NIU reunion over there. Just,
Will certainly help once my wife finds a new job, that one that isn't overnight.
oh
I'm kind of limited in what I can do outside of the house.
yeah. Well, you guys will figure it out. I mean, it sounds like you're in good shape. Um, but
But
yeah, that'll work out.
yeah.
Um, oh, let's see. What mouthpiece were you on? Or are you?
So right now I'm playing on a Van Doren BD5.
How do you like it?
I like it. It's not for everybody. Actually, the first time I played it, which was when it had first come out,
Hmm.
I absolutely didn't like it, to be honest. I think it was probably a combination of the reeds I was trying that day, how much I was biting at the time. At the time, I didn't like it, but now it works for me. But as for E flat, I only ever had a Walter Grabner E flat,
Great.
and I'm going to hold on to that for dear life because the Zinner blanks are no longer a thing, and so
Yeah.
that style of mouthpiece isn't a thing that he sells anymore. So I will hold on to that.
I'll have to see what comes out now because I mean, yeah, for years I was just used to everyone using that Zinner blank. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll
I mean,
see.
now I'm seeing people who 3D print it with really like high tech machines that are very fine, and that kind of baffles me.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool to see that technology, but I kind of wonder sometimes with applications like that how well it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
It better be very secure because I
Yeah.
don't want like little pinholes to appear in
Mm-hmm.
my little vacuum tube that I'm playing. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw my episode with Brad Bain. He gets into a lot of his mouthpiece technical mouthpiece
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Um,
Ooh, speaking of pain, um, when I bought this E flat, uh, the guy I bought it from had a Bane barrel
oh, nice.
for it. So
Are you
I've
using
been
it?
playing that. Yeah, it's the only barrel I have for it,
Okay.
but it's been good.
Nice.
It's been good for me, so I like it.
Yeah. There's so many of those types of people I want to talk to, like people making equipment, adjusting equipment.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to know. I mean, from my end of it, I just wanted to make sure it plays well and it's something that
Mm-hmm.
I like. But there's so many. I mean, like for every individual musician, they want something that will fit their concept.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me the directions that could go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, cool. What? All right, gonna hit a little hard here. What do you think is the hardest lesson you've learned so far?
Hardest lesson. Oh,
And could be
I
about clarinet or just the rigors of existence. It's up to you how
I
deep
do
you want to.
remember reading your questions and wanting to think about it, but I don't think I landed on anything. But I guess if I were to say Clarinet wise, slow it down. Just slow it down. You don't need to have everything done today. And the more you slow down, the more you can really focus on what needs to be fixed. And I find more improvements there.
Yeah.
And I guess this applies broadly to everything. I mean, with this whole pandemic, it forced me to slow down a lot of things. And one of the best things that this pandemic has done is, well, it helped me focus more on my young one, but also it helped me reconnect with, outside of clarinet, my martial arts.
Yeah. I
Uh,
saw on your social media a little, I'm not sure how long ago, you were working a sword form.
yeah, yes. I,
So sorry to interrupt. So for our audience, why don't you share a little bit about your martial arts background? I know the show is an
Mhm,
extension of my Clarinet Dojo,
mhm.
and I named it because I'm also a martial artist and I have a
Yep,
martial arts school. But why don't you share some of that side of your life for the audience?
sure. I've done martial arts since, I want to say, 6 or 7,
Wow.
maybe. Um, I think I wanted to be as cool as the Power Rangers on TV, or
Hey,
maybe it was Dragon Ball Z. I don't
yeah, I
remember.
can't blame
Something.
you. I still want to be like those.
Yeah, it was something I did, and I did get my black belt, and I was gonna get my second degree, but I had a concert in Chicago for school the very day I was gonna test, and that just never happened. But and while I never stopped doing martial arts, I for a while I wasn't regularly uh, practicing it.
Mm.
And one
What?
fun story. About 2 years ago, I made a friend who was doing MMA style sparring,
Mm.
and when he heard that I was a martial artist, he wanted to spar with me. It had been at least 2 years since I had been actively practicing, and the first thing he did was just punch me in the face. Then that, for the type of sparring I had done, that was a total surprise.
Yeah. What did you do?
Uh,
Like point sparring or
yeah,
something
it
like
was
that?
more point sparring, and his was more MMA, and he was
Yeah.
also in better shape than I was at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. If somebody's training and you have not been training, yeah, there's going to be a bit of a curve there. But
Mhm.
what
But
what style did you train, or what
so my
was
style is called Kaju Kenbo. It
Kajukenbo?
is a Hawaiian martial arts, and that was a mixture of several different martial arts, and it's in the name actually. Ka for karate, Ju for judo and jujitsu, Ken from kempo, and Bo for Chinese boxing. So Kaji Kembo. And the whole philosophy, which I really like, is that it's a martial art that is accepting of other styles and is constantly growing. If you go to one school, well, in Hawaii, you'll probably have maybe something a little more traditional in its style. But if you go California or Illinois, you're going to have various different influences that are added onto it. And so for me and my training there, even though I never got my second degree, I don't know if I ever will at this point, but I'm just wanting to learn other styles and just evolve
Yeah.
as a martial artist in person. And so I definitely try to take some of that mentality into my own music playing. There's no one way to do things, and the important thing is to always be learning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important. We try to maintain that same spirit at my school. Like
Hmm.
we're our own mix of, you know, like traditional kung fu, jeet kune do, Bruce Lee's martial art,
Hmm. Yep.
Filipino martial arts that, you know, I share from my family's lineage,
Hmm.
and my business partner teaches wrestling, like just,
Ooh,
you know,
yeah.
so it's a cool mix of just like the instructors and I got together, like what do we all know, and let's put it together, you know,
Yeah.
and then if people want to specialize in any of those particular systems, we work with them to, you know, like we have people who are just training Filipino martial arts or just Jeet Kune Do, uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, there's no reason if you're not being a jerk and you come in with an open mind and wanting to learn, like there's no reason or like yeah, there's no boundaries, like you
Yeah.
whatever. We've had guests from all sorts of different styles and all different schools come in as friends. I mean, we don't go like uh, like what we're happy to cross hands with people. We've done our fair share of sparring with each other,
Mhm.
and that's part of the development with the other instructors. Like we um well, this year has been a little less hands on, but
Yeah.
during normal
Understand.
times we like to spar each other because we all come from different backgrounds. Like, okay, how does one style deal with a certain problem compared to another
Hmm.
style, and like how do we deal with each other? um it
Hmm.
but I think the world of martial arts, like the world of music, like if we're open and if we don't have big egos to work around, uh
Hmm.
the whole field could move forward in big strides, I think, you know.
I mean, going back to that story of getting punched in the face,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I always knew, I always knew that I wasn't the baddest guy out there, but it was definitely a humbling thing to get that punch in the face despite having a black belt.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that's another thing that now that you mention it, it's another analog between the music world and martial arts. Like the overconfident, inexperienced black belt. It's like the people who graduate music school just assuming that their dream job is going to get handed to them.
Hmm.
Like you're living in a fantasy, and at some point or another, literally or figuratively, you're going to get punched in the face and reality is going to set in.
Yep.
But that's,
Yeah.
oh man, it's fun to hear. um and I have you I know you're super busy with work and family, but have you gotten to explore any of the local martial arts scene around you?
I I've actually started doing my research. I'm hoping my daughter does martial arts one day, and so I've done some research at the local dojos because she's not going to want to learn from me.
Yeah.
Daddy's not cool.
Yeah. It-
um, and it's tricky because trying to see what is around and me having my own preconceived ideas of what a dojo should be. I'm looking at this dojo and going, I don't like this because that, or there's this. Um,
I mean,
but
you certainly have a
there's
say
some
because
interesting things.
I mean, you're a martial artist, but you're also a parent, and you're gonna be the
Hmm.
one paying the bills for it. So you have a right to be discerning about the choice, you know.
Yeah. Um, I I certainly found a couple of dojos that I would be interested in because I want to learn jujitsu or Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with much of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu lineage, but one big name is Gracie, the
Hmm.
Gracie name. There's a dojo that carries the Gracie name, and that immediately has my attention, at least. Um, there's also another one that's a very traditional Japanese one, and I would certainly be interested in the weapons aspect since I really do like the Japanese sword.
It's a fun thing.
Yeah. But there is another dojo that looks like there is a huge, what do you call, extreme martial arts side. You know, a lot of
Oh,
flips and tricks.
yeah, yelling your brains out, and that's,
And
I mean, with all due respect, because I can't do what those guys do, but I I'm more inclined to call that performance art than.
oh yeah, that definitely there's that. And so I'm a little weary of there, but that's only because of how I view things.
Yeah,
Not to any disrespect to
right.
that school.
Yeah, I think yeah, you just have to be honest with what you're getting when you go there. Like if you're learning backflips and like butterfly kicks, just be honest that that's what you're learning and that you're not learning those because you want to go defend yourself on the street.
Hmm.
Like, but
Yeah.
yeah, you have to be open and honest about what the experience you're providing and the one that you want, you know.
Hmm.
But that's, yeah, I mean, that's there too. I mean, I wouldn't stop people from cross training in that if they want to compete in those kinds of
Yep.
things. Because there's a lot of people like that that go into movie careers and stunt careers off of that kind of stuff. So there's a place for that. Uh,
Yeah.
I have actually one of my black belts. We trained him when he was like, we started him in middle school, and now he's where is he? He's a theater student at Columbia in
Hmm.
the city, and it sounds like he's starting to get into like stage combat and stuff.
Nice.
So
That's
I'm
always.
curious to see where he takes that, if he decides to do that as a career or what. But yeah, I mean, that's
I, I've I've listened to a couple of movie actors who do that kind of stuff, and it's really interesting to hear how they do it, especially if you look at the East versus the West and how they stage their movies. Sounds like, especially in like Taiwan and China, they will spend months perfecting their choreography. If you've ever seen Drunken Master 2, I believe they spent 6 months just on that final fight scene.
hey,
It's,
but you get that value out of it, man. Like
mhm.
you can tell they've spent that time. I mean, but yeah, it's its own thing. It's not like watching like a cowboy fist fight. Like
Mhm.
both things are violence on screen, but there's a like it's just a different experience.
Yeah,
Um,
different flow to it.
so that answers the question of what else do you do other than clarinet, I think.
Yeah, I've really since this pandemic have worked on my martial arts and just getting my body in shape again. I want to be that 80-year-old, 90-year-old man who's running marathons and can do the
Except I
splits.
hate marathons. I want to be the one that's at the park moving slowly and nobody knows exactly why. Um, or like holding a bird on one finger and just,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, that's, I think to reconnect it to the music world, like um quality physical health. I
Yes.
think we get I know I've fallen into this trap on occasion too. Like I got to stay in the practice room and I gotta get monster chops. Like, well, yeah, but if you do a little cardio and build some wind, you can use that wind for your playing. You know,
If you learn some yoga breathing, that can help immensely as well.
yeah, oh
Um,
man, breath control exercise like that. Yeah, um, I always fall back onto that stuff when I have kids who have problems with capacity. Like, hey,
mhm.
just sit up and breathe down a little bit more. Let's
Mhm.
let's start building that. The fundamentals even of breathing and posture.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, no, physical activity. I know. Oh man, like yeah. So I think Ginsberg, my teacher at Western,
Mm-hmm.
I've always known him to be like somewhat physically active. Tennis. I think he played tennis a lot. Sorry. You can, Mr. Ginsberg. You can correct me later, or comment on this video of what other physical activity you do. I get lost in some of the memories. I think he swims seasonally, also when there's no COVID, swimming
I
around.
mean, I know Dr. Barrett
Oh man,
bikes.
yeah,
Didn't he break his arm that
yeah. He broke himself somehow off of
crashing
a
it on a
bicycle.
like oh.
But you know what? Yeah, if you there's no disadvantage to increasing your physical fitness as a musician.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I had to make the choice, as a martial artist, because I was I was getting into my black belt for Taekwondo.
Uh-huh.
At the same time, I was really starting to get into clarinet, and we were like hammering your hands into the pads and stuff. And like, I had to make the choice: like, do I keep doing this art and possibly sacrifice my hands even when I want to pursue music, or do I pivot somehow? That's part of what brought me to Chinese Kung Fu, is because
Uh-huh.
they have ways of conditioning the hands where you don't turn it into just like
Yeah.
a big blunt hammer. Like I can still use my hands, but I wouldn't want to get hit by my hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so I don't. It's such a. We were talking earlier about the directions of music and the fascinating things you can do with it. Like that's how I see the martial arts world too. Like
Uh-huh.
we have a world of what are we up to? Like 8 billion people.
Too many.
Yeah.
More
Uh,
to ca-
every culture, every country, every hemisphere, continent, whatever. There's some kind of martial art history
Uh-huh.
lurking around. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it seems like a never-ending well of information. You just travel the world, how, figure out how people's ancestors used to murder each other.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, no, it's a fascinating thing. Um, I don't know if it always makes sense when I talk to people about my music life and then my martial arts life. Like
Uh-huh.
I don't know if people always understand the connection. So I
Yeah.
feel it's kind of cathartic to me to talk to you because you're in
Yeah.
the same boat, like music
Yep.
and martial arts. Like you know, at one point I thought, do I need to pick one of these things to do for the rest of my life? And then I realized I
I
don't.
don't
Yeah,
know.
just do them both and live.
I actually, as part of my own training, so to speak, I started teaching some of my coworkers some martial
Mhm.
arts. Um, I'm not giving any belts or anything. I don't know if I'm certified within my association to do so, but that's not the focus. It's to teach what I know.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
can tell them based upon this curriculum and what I know, I can say you're a yellow belt now. I'm not giving you a belt. If you
right.
want to test for that, I can uh, make some old contacts and we could do that formally there.
There you go.
But
Yeah,
right now, it's more of a fun project.
nice. I mean, that all sounds like potential to me. We'll
Mhm.
see how that all develops over the next few years.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if you stick to it, I'm sure it's going to take you some good places. Um, oh man, so we talked a lot about what you did with Charlene and the books.
Mhm.
Mostly what Behrman you got
Yep.
worked out.
But
Are there any other books like that you regularly go back to when you practice? Is it mostly that Behrman?
um,
Or...
I do when I I go to Berriman when I want an in-depth study of scales. If I want a more general, I'll just do the close
Okay.
and just go through all of them really quick, or just work on the scales themselves. Actually not too long ago with my hearing aids and hearing losses, I am trying something new with how I practice.
Hmm.
So I've not wanted to ever really practice without my hearing aids because it takes away a lot of the higher overtones, and so I get this really ugly sound that I hear, and it's not fun. But I found that I can hear other things that I normally is harder to hear when I have all of those ringing overtones and
Hmm.
everything. So I'm interested to see where that goes. And
Yeah.
no one can tell me I'm doing anything wrong because I doubt there's anyone else who can do what I can do.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that'll be interesting. I don't know if you're gonna take notes or document that somehow. I'd be curious to see what you discover from that.
well,
'Cause
one thing,
you're right. It's kind of a unique
well,
situation.
one influence. Have you ever heard of Evelyn Glennie?
Mm-mm.
She is a percussionist, world famous, in fact, who has significant hearing loss, and she performs barefoot. And she had a good TED talk once that I remember watching where she talked about how listening is not just from your ears, but what you feel through the vibrations. And I mean, again, with her hearing loss and using her feet, she experiences music differently than how I assume most others do. And so I'm interested to see if I can do a similar thing.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. I mean, it's true. Listening. When we say even the term listening, it's implied that it's with ears,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really just how you respond to the intake of information. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we do this. We do this in my school, where part of the curriculum is learning chisao, the hand rolling
Mm-hmm.
exercise, and the whole point of that is to develop uh, listening skill through the arms and hands. It's like when
Mm-hmm.
you make contact and
How
you
you
listen
feel.
to your opponent. Um, we have similar. Like I practice Chinese internal martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
and they have their own versions of touch related drills. But it's to develop a certain sensitivity to your opponent
Mm-hmm.
on contact. So it stands to reason, even for something like music, that you could rely on other sources of information besides the ears. Uh,
Um, you know what? Also, you could bring it into intonation because when I was at Roosevelt, one of the classes they had was rhythm and intonation with Steve Squires.
okay, yeah.
Um, if you've ever worked with him, that man's a genius. um, yeah, he talked a lot about the importance of how you tune each note within the scale. And I wish I had this thing, but I had a drone that would play any note that I chose. And part of what I did to practice, it would just drone an A or C or whatever, and I would use that as my fundamental. And I would work up the scale, long tones, and really try to get that good intonation. And I don't think I have the best ear for hearing everything, so I try to really feel and hear
Mhm.
and make sure that. And one great compliment I got was in class. I remember him mentioning that this guy may not have typical ears, but he can play in tune.
That,
So,
yeah, that's one up on a lot of people.
and that even goes back to a lesson that John told me. We all have our tuners, and we all look at it and make sure that we're in the green, but what does that actually teach us about tuning?
Right. Yeah.
So I definitely believe in using a drone and learning how to tune with your ear, which is I don't know if other schools do stuff like this, but I remember maybe it was in one of your previous episodes someone was talking about not having learned to tune with the orchestra. It might have been with. Did we freeze? Oh, okay. Oh, you were just so were so intense.
Yeah, sorry, it's my listening face. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah, but talking about not having learned how to tune and play with others, so that's something I believe in.
Yeah, it's I think that tuner builds a lot of false confidence because you're in a context of one.
It trains you to listen well with your eyes, really, if anything, and it was really fascinating to learn about equal temperament and just intonation and how that all works, and how if we were to truly tune the piano, we'd only be able to play in one key.
Oh man, yeah, and I think I was talking to another guest about something like that, like the temperament, all that stuff. Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, all that to say, I'm curious to see what you discover as you practice in that way.
Yeah.
But that would, I have a feeling if you're recording your findings, that would be useful information for a lot of people. Are you enjoying any other books and media right now that's not related to clarinet?
There are shows that I'm watching on like Netflix and Disney Plus, but most of the time they go on indefinite hiatus because I watch a lot of them with my wife, and while she is fine with me watching without her, I feel kind of bad.
Yeah.
We just got into Cobra Kai for starters, man. And she also does martial arts, as does my father-in-law. He might watch this at some point since I also told him about this. So
do they train the same style that you did, or is it a different system?
Yes.
Okay.
My father-in-law actually got his 3rd degree black belt.
Oh, nice. Do you live around them, or is he live nearby? Is he training somewhere?
Not actively right now, but yeah, we see him all the time.
Okay. Yeah, I never know. Family and location and all that. But I was gonna say, like, if he's still training somewhere that's relatively close, you could continue, or if assuming it's the same material, you could continue your advancement too if you wanted.
But I've also been reading on some Star Wars literature.
Wait, which one? Here, hold that close to the camera. Which one is that?
This is from the Thrawn trilogy. So before Disney bought Star Wars, there was a whole set of books and a whole lore continuity. And this series of book, I believe, really brought about that whole extra continuities outside of the movies. So,
all right,
yeah.
So between clarinet, martial arts, and then your science fiction, that's multi-nerd achievement. Congratulations.
Yep.
I laugh, but I'm the same way. Although I haven't gotten much into the newest Star Wars, like the Disney Star Wars movies. They seem so exhausting, even just from the promo material. I kind of wanted to wait for it all to calm down before I got back into that kind of stuff. I've seen a lot of good reviews and attention on the new Mandalorian show.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of fun. I have yet to watch a lot of that stuff myself. I had a lot of people yelling at me that I should watch Cobra Kai. It's like, you know what? I think the story of somebody passed in their mid to late 30s trying or older trying to open a martial arts school hits a little too close to home for me.
Well, actually, if you've seen the Karate Kid, it's I find it really interesting because the dynamic is there's Daniel and Johnny from the first movie, and how their lives have become since that movie, but also just how the the Karate Kid is solely on Daniel, and he's the hero, and Johnny's the bad guy.
Yeah.
But Cobra Kai really dives into who Johnny is as a character, who he was at that time, and where he was at that time. And it makes it a lot more complicated because, from his perspective, Daniel did a couple things that weren't so great, and thus making the whole relationship way more complex.
Yeah. I mean, one of these days, I'm sure I'll get around to it because it does sound like a fascinating show. But I think it's my contrarian streak. Like when somebody tells me I have to do something or that I need to do something, it makes me want to resist it. So one day when nobody's telling me to do it anymore, maybe I'll get around to it.
Well, I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just telling you what I know.
There you go.
So,
That's a good way to put it.
And you can make whatever interests and follow it whenever. So.
Oh man. Let's see. Is another heavy hitter possibly. What's something you believe that you don't, or that you used to believe that you don't believe anymore? Get it, that can be as light or as heavy as you want it to be.
I mean, I kind of talked about it before, how when I first decided I wanted to do music, I used to think that the performance career was the only way to go. I hadn't had much exposure outside, and I'm as the whole theme of today's been, I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that with this, somebody will listen who is where I was at, and maybe they'll gain some perspective, or maybe someone else who's in my boat. And just hearing that, yeah, you're not alone at this. There's a lot of other people who are still trying to figure this out. And social media doesn't help. I have plenty of friends who are having, at least from the social media aspect, have successful careers. But I don't know all of the what goes behind the scenes.
Social media can make you look however you want to look.
Yeah.
You live in your gilded cardboard box in the alley out back. But that your perspective is important, and I'm sure I'm confident there's a lot of people out there who are in the same boat or who understand and can benefit from this kind of discourse. So we'll see who comes out of the woodwork and how everyone chooses to move forward.
Yeah.
But that's good. Is there, let's see, how do I put this? How do you hope you'll change in the future as a person? Is there you're already living a pretty satisfying sounding life, work, family, doing the best you can on top of a worldwide pandemic.
Change as a person. I always want to keep learning new things, and I'm hoping that by learning different things, that grants me more perspectives on on life, because I'm sure you've had teachers that just didn't understand, whether it be from music or regular school, that they only believed in one way and just maybe didn't understand you had a certain struggle.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, certainly as a teacher in any regard, want to not be compassionate and not understand or be willing to change and accommodate for the student as need be, or for anyone in general.
Yeah, having that's important. The perspective in order to relate, so that you can help people. That's a big deal. And I think in turn, I know from my experience, knowing where my ability to help ends and when I need to recommend somebody move on to another perspective. Because I mean, as a teacher, you know, the impulse is to want to help people, but you can only do what you're able to do. You know, when none of us has all the answers, all the perspective. So it's it's important.
Sometimes it's just changing your teachers. If I were to do certain things over again, I think with my time at Roosevelt, I would have swapped the time between Charlene and John, because I found that there was a lot of fundamental stuff that just I was severely lacking and was not able to really do what John was telling me. But then when I started working with Charlene and more fundamentals, I find now that I have a better grasp. I'm still, I recorded some of the lessons with John, so I can go back and start actually learning some of that stuff and whatever he said that's still in my memory banks. Yeah. But I think whatever my time with Charlene, it definitely helped click a lot of things. And that was just from a different perspective.
That's good. I mean, yeah, and that speaks to the type of experience you had there, where you can go back even years removed and still digest your experience there. Cool. Is there anything I haven't asked you yet that I should have?
I'm not sure. I think we've had a variety of things, really.
Yeah, that's good. I mean,
kind of gone through everything rather organically, I think.
That's good. That's good. I don't like to do stuff that's too contrived. Plus, you know, I haven't talked to you for a while, so it's just, to me, this is just catching up. I just happen to be recording it forever on the internet.
Well, I feel like the last time you and I saw each other might have been my second year at Northern, where you were just stopping by. I think you, Jimmy, and maybe Evan Suits. I think we all went to like a Chinese buffet or something.
I do remember the Chinese buffet. I don't remember anything else about the experience except for the Chinese food. It shows where my priorities are at, I guess.
I think that might have been one of the last times we saw each other. Because, I mean, Evan was a freshman that year, and that was my second year, so that seems about right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned it yourself earlier, like how small this world starts to get. I mean, from my experience, yeah, it's just going to get, the longer you're in it, the smaller it's going to get, and we just all kind of we'll be rubbing elbows at some point.
It's always fun. Here, I had a friend at Roosevelt who talked about his teacher, who in Atlanta, and funny enough, when I went to the Buffet Academy in Florida, this very same guy was there. And I'm like, hey, are you so and so?
Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy over here, he told me about you.
That's how it is. I mean, I've met
Mhm.
like my previous guests on the show, for instance. Like if I didn't study with them myself,
Mhm.
I've met these people at trade shows, at they were at auditions, like we were auditioning against each other, you know, or like all that kind of stuff. Those kinds of experiences, like, you know, if you're just good to people and
Mhm.
you know, keep up at some in some way, like you never know where these connections will lead.
Actually, that leads to another story even. When I'm I find I'm full of stories, I guess.
Hey,
But
it's life.
when I almost did go to grad school at a very, very different place. Not even in the States. I guess you could say this is my one chance to flex on this kind of thing. But when I went to that cornucopia 3 years ago, and the artist that year was Stefan Harg from Sweden. Um, Once I had registered, Dr. Barrett asked if I wanted to perform anything. And the only thing I had under my fingers was, in fact, the Rosa Sonata.
Mm.
And this was both my first solo outing doing double lip, and I think my first like recital of any sort outside of school. Since and I performed it. Uh, Oh, fun stories. There were more connections from people I knew at that convention. But Stefan, he talked to me after the day, and he wanted me to apply to his school in Sweden, Örebro University, and and I did apply, and I was accepted. But that was also kind of a turning point of, do I basically drop everything and go to Sweden, or I've got my, at that time, fiance.
Yeah.
Like,
What do you
I
do?
mean, yeah. And I mean, yeah, in another world, I could have been in Sweden, but I made a different choice, and I
Yeah.
don't regret that.
Yeah.
And while it was disappointing to kind of let that potential chapter go. Um, it is what it is, and if anything, Stefan said that if I'm ever in Sweden, he'd love to do some lessons with me. So
Yeah. Yeah. No,
who knows
these are
where
all
that may.
these are all, you know, bridges that are not burned and
Mm-hmm.
ways that are open to God knows what later.
Yeah,
Uh, no, that's good. Um,
and I mean that whole opportunity just came from going somewhere, that from attending an event
yeah.
and just simply meeting someone new. So put yourself out there.
Yeah.
It's hard. I know that. I know plenty of people get anxious about this stuff. I get anxious about just even making that video of me doing my sword form.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
it's a scary thing to put something out there. Um, I think, you know, if you feel compelled to do it, you have to do it.
mhm.
Um, otherwise, the psychological backlash will be enough to bother you. But no, it's yeah, the doing stuff, the
Mhm.
not waiting for somebody to make you offers, but just getting out there and being that person,
Mhm.
knocking on doors and creating. No, that's going to get you good places. It'll be cool to see how things develop.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. Well, maybe well, you get here. Flash your card, your business card one more time up to the camera, and then we'll
Sure.
nice.
I took this picture myself, actually.
Hey, nice.
I'm not a visual artist, and I didn't exactly have any friends who could make a design. So I just put my clarinet on the piano over there
Yeah,
and flashed a filter, and there you go.
nice. But
Got
that's
my own non-copyright photo.
so. Where if people want to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
Yeah, I my email, it's clarinetplayer39 at gmail.com. I am in a very early process of trying to outreach for students, but outside of that, I mean, I'm always willing to meet people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when we're all more free to do so, we'll definitely get that going. I have plans for the next whenever the next Clarinet Fest is.
Mhm.
I think in Texas, assuming things aren't closed down for God knows what this time.
I gotta make it to one of those. I haven't attended one yet,
None of them
but
yet.
no, I mean they all.
It's
I. It's hard when you're a student and don't have money.
yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, there's ways to do it. I mean, I know we're a lot of us are adults now with some form of job to contend with, but we can still do the college kid thing of sharing rides and sharing lodging.
Hmm. Yeah.
Again, assuming there's no biological lockdown again, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, if you really want to go to one of these, we'll figure out some way to make it work. But I will tell you, especially for Clarinet Fest, like these are a lot of the top people in the industry, a lot of key educators, equipment.
Yeah.
You get to hear you get to hear a lot of self-confident college students blasting Daphnis and what Midsummer Night's Dream, like all the annoying audition rep. They'll be all blasting it at 115% volume, um, but you get to see a lot of
Hmm.
the new instruments and equipment, like I said, composers and teachers and uh, all sorts of different perspectives on the instrument. So I'm hoping that
It.
that happens so that we can move forward.
Yeah.
Um, Also, it's Texas, so I'm expecting to eat meat, like a lot of.
Yeah, Texas barbecue.
Yes, I don't
It's.
even care where we are in Texas. I will find meat to eat.
Mhm.
Um,
But it's also funny that you mentioned like the hot-headed college kid doing all of these excerpt stuff. I feel like there was a time in my life I was that guy too, to some extent.
that
But once you really learn just what's actually out there, you kind of reevaluate how you think of things
yeah.
and how you present yourself.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, that stage of development. Everyone goes through it, but it's just annoying to hear. Um, but hopefully, I mean, it's annoying, but I'm actually looking forward to hearing it again,
Hmm.
assuming the things move forward and we get to live our lives again. But
Give it time, it will. I'm absolutely certain it will. It's just a matter of time.
yeah, so um, that said, Michael, it's been great catching up with you.
Yeah, it's been great talking with you, Frank.
Yeah, sounds like you've got some good stuff going for you and great opportunities uh, coming down the pipe. Um, you mentioned where we can find you. I'll put anything else you want to tell me. I'll put it in the show notes later. But
Okay.
it's been a pleasure, and I hope it's not the last time. I'm sure we'll talk again.
Yeah, I mean, as things move on, I would certainly love to talk to you again, give you an update.
Yeah.
Or if nothing more, we can always nerd out about something.
Yes.
Sure.
Oh, find some neutral ground and fight each other. Uh, I'll dig up the coolest looking sword I have, and we can shower some sparks on frightened
Do you
bystanders.
know any Chinese broadsword?
Huh?
Do you know any Chinese broadsword forms? Or
I know
anything like that?
some. I focus more on how to cut people with it than I have how to look pretty. But yeah,
That could be something that we may one day have to meet up. I have one, and I've been wanting to learn how to use it, and YouTube can only tell me so much.
right. Yeah, let's make it happen. If you would do a martial arts / clarinet time, and that gives you a chance. If there's anyone or anything else around the Chicago area you want to visit, or if I head up that way, we'll make something happen.
Yeah.
And it will involve frightening bladed weapons, and clarinet. So,
Yes, of course.
anyways, good talking to you. I'll let you get back to your family and your whatever sleep time you have left before you have to be a dad again.
Rule number 1 of being a father: you never get enough sleep.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll talk to you again in like 17 or 18 years when you don't have, or when you have an adult on your hands.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
it's been great.
Yeah.
Catch up again another time.
All right. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
All right. Later.